saved us.
Are you sure this is the right way?
Kyle asked. He looked up from his mobile phone with the application directing them towards their destination. The smooth tarred road had long given way to a rough, uneven track that made them bounce in their seats. Tiny rocks would occasionally hit the screen, and Lucas gripped the steering wheel tighter. A tiny trickle of sweat rolled down his temple. One would dismiss his silence as Lucas's way of concentrating. But Kyle noticed his friend's white knuckles and knew that they were hopelessly lost. It was at that precise moment when the engine spluttered and came to a standstill. They looked at each other. Lucas turned on the ignition. Nothing. A few more tries. Still nothing. They were stranded in the middle of nowhere with no signal on their mobile phones. Kyle looked out in the dark. He could make out the outlines of trees, enough to indicate that they were not anywhere near their destination. A sudden knock on the window shocked them both. A young man signaled to them to wind down the windows. Lucas lowered the pane ever so slightly, still suspicious about talking to anyone at this most vulnerable moment.
"Are you lost?"
the man asked. Kyle nodded and asked for directions to the nearest town.
"It's quite a distance from here. Why don't you come with us, have a rest and continue in the morning?"
He pointed out to the darkness. The boys looked at each other. They had been driving for 5 hours and were tired and hungry. Kyle was surprised when Lucas suddenly opened his door and stepped out. Maybe he was too tired to be cautious, and the men looked friendly enough. Kyle followed suit and stepped out of the car. It was then when they saw a shy young woman standing not far from the man. He introduced her as his wife, and they had been married for not more than a year. Assured by the calm and friendly demeanor displayed by the couple, the boys followed them down a small path with only the moon as their guide, illuminating the shrubberies and trees as they went along. Not long after, they came to a small clearing with a small house in the middle of it. They entered the cozy house, and the woman served them some bread and water to quench their thirst and satisfy their hunger. Kyle and Lucas told the men about their journey to visit a friend and how they got lost in the process. The couple listened but did not offer any advice. However, they assured the boys that they were safe and to get a good rest. Lulled by the calm night and the warm hospitality of their host, Kyle and Lucas fell asleep across from each other in the living room. They were too tired to worry about their car and the next part of their journey. The important thing now was to get a good night's sleep. The next morning, Kyle awoke with a start and stared at the sky above him. It slowly dawned upon him that he was indeed outdoors and that he had been sleeping on a bed of dried leaves. He stood up and ran to Lucas, who was still sprawled on his own bed of leaves. He wildly shook Lucas awake, and together both of them looked around the clearing for the first time. There was no house and no signs of the couple. Hearts beating wildly as panic slowly took over, they raced back down the path towards where they parked their car the previous night. Lucas reached the car first and came to a halt. He grabbed Kyle's arm and pointed at the road ahead. About 20 meters from where they stood, the road had given way to a large sinkhole. If the car had not stopped the previous night, they would have fallen right into it. Lucas swallowed hard on his dry throat. He fumbled for his car keys, went straight to the driver's seat and tried the ignition, all the while praying fervently. Kyle did not wait to be invited and quickly jumped into the car. Thankfully, the engine roared to life. They did not stop to wonder how this was so, because this was not the time nor the place to discuss the possibility of it. Lucas expertly turned the car around and they quickly made their way back to the main road, which was surprisingly not that far from where they were. At the main road, the first sign of civilization was a truck carrying vegetables that happened to pass by. They stopped the truck and got their directions to a nearby town. Eventually, the boys got to their destinations. Their night and lucky escape, however, was another tale to remember. So what do you think? Who was it who saved the two boys?